How did I fall from first in FPL to just below 8,000th? Well, in today's video, we are going to evaluate all the mistakes I made and what not to do in the future in FPL. So come game week 28, I found myself first place. This was as a result of using many of my chips early, and I'm going to highlight that as mistake number one. In future, I think it's now best to actually save my chips and plan for the future. So that's something I didn't do. Coming into FPL, this is my first season, and it's safe to say I did not plan. I had no clue what I was doing, and I used those chips up as fast as possible, apart from the bench boost, which I did use on the final game week, and we'll go into that. So at this point we were captaining Salah still, and it was all going well. But if you move to game week 29, things start to go sour. Now, at this point, it came to blank and doubles. Game week 29 was a big week given the FA Cup semi-finals. This saw me with a side not quite as strong as I liked. And when that injury news on Sunday came through that Cole Palmer would not be playing and Ranieri would be coming from the bench, I knew my chances of staying number one were over. Ethan Ranieri only scored 1 point and ultimately was not worth the punt. Likewise with players like Wan-Bissaka, who I had and only achieved 2 points. Ultimately though, this wasn't a disaster. And going into game week 30, we captained the likes of Marmoush, who got 18 points, and were comfortably at 15 points above the average. However, at this point, injuries are starting to come in with the likes of Lewis Hall and Justin Kluivert. Ethan Ranieri also was on my bench, and he was number 2 on my bench. So that is mistake number 2, not having an attacker as the first option on my bench. Instead, I had a defender, and that ultimately cost me 4 points. I think in game week 30, I was 8th place. Now things really take a dark turn as we head to game week 31. In game week 31, everything was getting a little bit more rushed, a little bit more panicked, and we're going to count that as mistake number 3, is to always think everything through. Because I started to get a bit daft and take many 4-point hits, and these 4-point hits did not benefit me at all, with lots of others around me achieving far better point scores, as I only got 8 points above the average. Now, this is also another one where Saka had scored and came off the bench the week before, and impulsively I had brought him in, being mistake number 4. Let's not be impulsive with our transfers. Let's hold out and stay calm and evaluate every single detail, which I did not do when putting Saka in. I automatically assumed he'd be starting every game. However, that did not happen. In fact, he's prioritised for Champions League, meaning his Premier League minutes were not quite there. And likewise with Ranieri, he actually didn't start that week. And I thought at least one of them would be guaranteed to start. So, again, I'm not too happy there. Same with the bench. The bench, I suffered many injuries as well, and the squad was running a bit thin. As we go into game week 32, things really start to slip even more, as the likes of Munoz get -1 point. Now, again, the point tally wasn't actually a disaster. However, many people got far more points, given this was a double game week, I believe. And I did not capitalise it at all. My main mistake here was not having Jacob Murphy, and this was due to a lack of preparation for the double game week. So let's make that number 5. Always prepare for double game weeks. Now, without Jacob Murphy, my rank really took a big hit. And if it wasn't for him, I think I'd still be comfortably in and around that top 10. But it saw me properly drop out of it. And it's a shame, because it was definitely the start of a big downfall. Come game week 33, desperation was at an all-time high, so I'm going to reiterate that. Let's not get desperate and let's stay calm. So, here we had a double Newcastle defence, which got me ultimately -2 points between them. And I captained Marmoush. Again, the captaincy is key. I was below average by 7 points, which was not ideal. And yeah, it's safe to say I was definitely panicking because my rank was deteriorating second by second. So, as you look at it, we had the likes of Bukayo Saka and Cole Palmer. Both these players were well out of form by this point, and it's a real shame that I could not see this and instead persisted, as I chose to stick with equality instead of taking more risks, which is going to be mistake number 6. I think you got to stop playing it safe and you had to take risks, so otherwise you'll never achieve. And the only reason I got to number 1 in the first place was by taking risks. So let's use that as a lesson. Also, again, Saka kind of killed me in that Champions League run. Now, game week 34 was... It wasn't too bad, but it was pretty bad. I think it's safe to say that. I did bring in the likes of Jared Bowen. However, what really killed me in this game week was my captaincy. I decided to again play it safe and put the captaincy on Mo Salah, when the obvious decision would have been Mateus Cunha, particularly with his fixture that week. Now, looking at it as well, I had not properly planned. I had players on my bench who were obviously blanking, but did I have necessary replacements? No. Would I count Wan-Bissaka and Mikalenko as good enough to make up for these missing points? Not at all. As well as this, I had the likes of Cole Palmer and Cliver, who has just come back from injury and are well out of form at this point. Moving into game week 35, this was a very, very bad week. This week I was very torn between Jared Bowen and Mbeumo, but I decided to go for Mbeumo, which is a safer pick, and it obviously proved wrong. Jared Bowen scoring 4 more points. This really cost me. As well as this, I persisted with Saka, and actually had Wan-Bissaka who got 7 points on my bench, who I should have started over Mikalenko. But hindsight is a wonderful tool when it comes to FPL. Unfortunately, I was not able to foresee the future. Now, the back line was really starting to flare up problems. With missing players like Gabriel, who everyone else had, I found it really hard to kind of make up points. And again, I think there's a big difference between a balance of differentials and essentials. But if you don't have those essentials, you lose all those points. But if you don't have differentials, you don't gain anything. So, I know I said to play it safe, but for certain players, you have to have them, and then that's your foundation, and all your risks, all your punts can make... They'll be the make weight. They will get the points, you know they get the points, but then it's about taking risks to achieve more points than other players. Moving into game week 36, again, the back line achieved lots of points, unlike previously, but the front line wasn't. And what was a real killer was the bench, as well as his captaincy, where I was actually torn between De Bruyne and Mbeumo, but due to Mbeumo's poor return a few weeks back, I decided to go De Bruyne, particularly for the sentimental element, and is a good fixture. So I think captaincy, it's always good to just back the underlying stats, back the XG. And De Bruyne obviously doesn't actually get in that many attacking positions, and you can tell that by watching the games. So, was it the right decision to go for him? Not at all. And should I have gone for him? No, not even in the moment. I should have backed Mbeumo. But yeah. And then, likes of Livramento and Wan-Bissaka on the bench. Livramento scoring 7 points, Wan-Bissaka scoring 12. Ultimately wasn't a disaster due to the likes of Mikalenko, Byrne and Munoz getting good hauls, but yeah, not ideal still. Heading into game week 37, the rank has properly deteriorated by this point, and I think the points tally really shows just how downhill the season has gone. By captaining Salah, I should have gone on Mbeumo. Again, I was playing it safe. I stuck with the likes of De Bruyne and Saka. Actually, the past week I did bring in De Bruyne as well, on a sentimental basis, due to the fact I thought he'd be very good in his final games for Man City. Obviously, I have been proven wrong, which is a big shame. But yeah, this week I just didn't have anyone really scoring any points. My highest performer was Mikalenko, which is very interesting. Now, if you move in to our final game week 38, in this game week, I finally used my bench boost. After I planned to use it a few weeks back, but everyone being injured, I had to use it now. And let's say it did not work. I bought in David Raya in a desperate hope to get points. And no. With that Southampton fixture, I thought he'd be nailed on, but it's, again, Southampton and Arsenal both nothing to play for. And Southampton have actually been scoring a few goals, wiping out a few clean sheets, so very interesting. Then Mikalenko, actually, I've noticed this now, he's actually been my top performer recently. And I captained Bukayo Saka. I mean, that was a rubbish move. He hadn't scored any points recently. I just decided to captain him. What I should have done is Mo Salah or Brian Mbeumo, but it's very stupid. So I think captaincy, again, I'm going to reiterate this point, is a key thing. You have to actually think through, because captaincy is the real swing. If you don't get your captaincy right, it just doesn't work. So how I got to first place was very interesting, because I never actually played the game before. Like, I started the game in previous years, but I've always kind of stopped, forgotten about it come September, October time. So when I found out I was doing all right, I decided to give it a real go. I just watched as many games as possible, looked at the players, and I think it's honestly the best way to do it. I mean, as soon as I kind of stopped watching as many games, that is actually where I got a lot worse. I think another big element to that is planning and chips. I did not have a chip strategy and it did not work at all. So I think patience is key. However, I got to first by taking risks, watching games, and just looking at the basic stats. I don't want shots, I just want XG. XG and XGC, expected goals conceded. Those are the two key stats that you should use. I personally think you should ignore all the others. As helpful as you may find them, I personally don't recommend using them. As you become too embroiled in a statistical element, you actually start to ignore just watching the game, the eye test. Because stats would suggest to you that Nicholas Jackson would score probably 20 goals in the Premier League season. If you actually watch him, is that really a 20-goal season striker? I highly doubt it. But yeah, thank you for watching the video, and I really hope you enjoyed it.